Clubs, the Buffalo Bandits, to Trobak in the National Lacrosse League, are heartbroken over the devastating event that occurred yesterday at Tops Friendly Markets in Buffalo. Our community mourns the victims of this appalling act of hate, along with their families during this difficult time. Please remain standing and join us in a moment of silence as we honor the lives lost and those affected by this tragedy. Thank you.
Hey lacrosse friends, welcome once again to Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Steven Stamp, and heading into week one of the division finals in the National Lacrosse League, we saw four teams matching up, each of which has a pretty strong contender for the goalie of the year conversation in the league. So of course, in the two games, there were 61 goals scored. We are joined by two of the men largely responsible for creating all that scoring, Connor Robinson of the Colorado Mammoth and Josh Byrne of the Buffalo Bandits, two terrific lefties, joining us this week on Lacrosse Link, your link to all things lacrosse.
Watched by Danby, a big pick from McGraw and another one. Back to McGraw, he's gonna let it rip and scores! Liam McGraw from downtown.
Joining me on Lacrosse Link from the Colorado Mammoth, Connor Robinson. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Stamper.
It's great to catch up, and what a thriller. It's almost like, because of the Buffalo-Toronto game happening on Sunday night and being absolutely wild, it's almost easy to forget about what a fun and crazy game you guys had just a couple days earlier in the opener of your West Division final. That was quite a ride, and what was it like to be part of that game?
It was awesome. We haven't been very fortunate when we go on the road to San Diego coming out victorious, but the guys in the room this year, we've got a totally new mindset. Just everyone's kind of pulling the rope in the same direction. And we came in, we went down and a half, but there's no quit on this team. And, there was zero panic on the bench, and everyone kind of knew that they needed to do their jobs in order to get the win. And we came out in that third quarter firing, and the score speaks for itself. We were down 9-6 and final score 14-12.
I thought it was fascinating. The big story obviously going into this game was Ryan Lee, your leading scorer, the guy who had the second most assists in a season ever in the NLL, out for the game. And people need to step up in that circumstance. And a lot of it seemed to fall on Zed Williams kind of early. He came through big with the 5 goals, but I really felt like at times early on, like he scored the first goal, he was looking pretty good, but I felt like there were times it almost looked like he was trying to do too much, like he was taking on too much, trying to fill him in, feeling like he needed to come in and do things. And it really felt like as you guys went and really into the second half, when you had that big run to start the half, that he sort of let the game come to him a bit more, and you guys all really clicked together, and your offensive group became pretty tough to stop. Did you guys feel that same kind of, it took a bit for you to all feel where your roles were going to be in that game?
Yeah, a little bit, I would say. Losing Leeser and finding out he's not able to play with us, it's pretty tough to swallow, but we got a next man up. Brett McIntyre came in, he played phenomenal out there, and yeah, absolutely. Zed, he does so much because he's an absolute beast out there. You see him taking on doubles, triples, and swimming his way out of there. So he really took over that game on that right side, which is awesome to see. Playoff Zeddy, as they call him. He's an absolute beast in the PLL during those playoffs, and now for us, he's doing everything the right way. And yeah, I think we're a little. What's the word I'm looking for? I think we were a little, I wouldn't say nervous, but we were trying to figure out how to play with one another for that first half. And then as soon as that halftime clicked in, we knew we kind of had it down pat. And you saw me and Zeddy were the only two that scored in the first half. And then you saw Eli put a couple up. You saw Kinnear put up. You see Joey with one big one in transition. And then you see Zeddy just kind of putting that dagger in with that long sub shot from outside.
Yeah, the big goal at the end, obviously huge. He had 5 goals, Zed Williams. I thought the other big factor that, is easy to overlook a bit because of all the goals and so much going on was the those resets that he went and got late in the game that gave you guys opportunities leading up to that winning goal. And what a difference that makes, right? When you can get a defense tired.
Oh, absolutely. You know, you get Zeddy against, I don't care who it is in the corner. I think I'm putting all my money on Zeddy coming out with the ball, just because he's so big and so tough and just so eager to get that ball. And once it's in the stick, it's almost impossible to get out.
The save by Dylan Ward with 2.5 minutes to go. He stops Westberg. The rebound pops out to Trey Leclerc, and he absolutely robs Leclerc on the rebound putback attempt. I'm curious, for you guys watching Dylan Ward, do you kind of get used to it and just be like, yeah, that's Wardo. That's just what he does? Or are you still marveling at these things that he does?
Oh, we're always so starstruck. I mean, I didn't even know that save happened until I was on Twitter after the game. I had my head over my knees trying to catch my breath. But I mean, I saw that, and it's just any goalie, that's the career highlight. But I mean, Dylan does that every single week, whether it's at practice shooting on us or in the games. I mean, and just the timing of it is just, it's awesome. You know, we're up 2, they get the open net, and he just sticks his stick out there and just absolutely robs Trey. It's just, we're so happy to have him like guarding our net there. And I mean, he's the best goalie in the world, and he just makes those saves kind of on point, where it is kind of like, oh, it's just another save by Dylan, but it's awesome to watch every single time.
You had 4 goals. You mentioned really ripping it up in the first half to keep you guys in the game. It's continuing the success that you've had all season. You know, there's so many times in young players' careers where it just doesn't work out for whatever reason with the first team. For you as Saskatchewan, despite everyone's best intentions, best efforts, it just didn't wind up working out. You get dealt here and you get the opportunity that you needed. And I'm wondering, with, you know, a 42-goal season, a massive uptick in production, was there a moment early in the season where you just kind of felt like, yeah, this is going to work. This is, I'm ready to roll?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was that first game in Vancouver. You know, we went down early and the ball started going in for me. And, you know, I've been fortunate enough to play with this left side throughout my younger years. I played with Eli and Junior. I played with Chris in the Man Cup, and then Dylan Kinnear and Langley. And kind of that familiarity of, you know, knowing how these guys play and knowing how I play, it helps so much. And then especially having a great offensive coach like Bish, and then having Pat at the helm, they let us kind of do our own thing and kind of trust us as an offense. And I felt real comfortable going in, and yeah, this season's been unbelievable for me.
You look very comfortable as a member of the Mammoth. I mean, I've seen a bunch of your interviews. You always get the tusk up in. You're probably planning to sneak it in here, and here I've kind of usurped it for you. But you just look really comfortable as part of this group, and obviously the familiarity is part of it. But it just seems to have been a fit from the start.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. And the first couple of weeks, you know, a little nervous going to a whole new team, especially getting traded like a year and a half ago and still not meeting the guys in person just because of COVID-19. But I mean, as soon as I got in there, the guys were so welcoming, and like you said, yeah, I feel comfortable and I'm having fun out there. And then, you know, that's the most important part is, you know, it's success on the floor, and we're just having a blast just on the floor. You see our offense, I think we probably set the NLL record for most hugs on the floor for this season. So, I mean, we're all out there as a fine bad unit having fun.
How's your nose doing? We've seen some social media posts of it taking a bit of a beating.
Yeah, the nose it's better. I think it was Andy that posted it a couple weeks ago, trying to bring it back into the fold, but I'm trying to get that video or that photo erased from the internet, but the nose is doing good now. It looks better than ever.
Excellent. I've got one general point I want to ask you about. It's something that I've been noticing in the playoffs in particular. And I'm wondering, is it just me, or are guys seeming more comfortable crossing the floor onto their offside on really designed plays, just in the flow of play more than they used to be? And I'm thinking an example from this game, Eli's goal that tied it up at 9, where, you know, Zed goes across the floor, sets a pick. Chris Wardle actually loops behind him to set the pick. And Eli clearly designed to come across the midline of the floor and shoot from that offside on that power play. It just seems like it used to be more unusual, or it'd be more from broken plays, but now it seems more designed and guys are more confident in doing that to open space where it might not have been before.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, you see more and more in every league, not every league, every team throughout the league. And, you know, those defenses are really focused on having the 3-man one side and then having the 2-man weak side, and they're kind of set in stone and knowing they have where those guys are. But if you throw into the X factor of having one guy coming across the floor, it kind of puts a little bolt in their kind of thinking process. So they got to worry about one other person. So it kind of it kind of gets them a little off guard to start. But I think that's, I mean, if it happens every single time, I'm sure they get used to it, but mixing it in every once in a while, it kind of creates a new fresh type of offense.
There's so much more I'd love to talk about. We are limited by the time we have available, and it's been so much fun having you on. Appreciate you taking the time. Really excited to see what comes up in the next week. Both divisions, I mean, there's so much excitement in these playoffs, and it seems to just be building as we go forward.
Oh, yeah, it's the best time of the year. It's playoffs. What else would you rather do? Sitting at home playing golf?
No, this is it. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. That's got.
Hi, this is Jaden with Al Anderson Source for Sports. Excited to tell you that we got all our new lacrosse product in for this upcoming season. Whether you're playing box or field, our lacrosse experts are going to make sure we get you into the right equipment to elevate your game. At Al Anderson Source for Sports, we know our stuff.
Joining me on a lacrosse link from the Buffalo Bandits, Josh Byrne. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, it's great to have you on board. And what a game. I mean, we come into a East Division final, game one, with two teams that have goalie of the year contenders. Both teams have scored quite well against the rest of the league, but in 3 games against each other, scored between 9 and 10 goals a game on average. So it looks like it's setting up for a defensive series. And sometimes that just seems to be the cue that it's going to be an explosive offense like it was. At what point, I mean, did it feel as wild, I guess, being part of this game on the floor as it did for all of us watching?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a crazy game. At the end of the day, there's a lot of emotions going on, especially with our group and our community. But it just felt like the game was flying by, and there was runs all over the place, and it was one of the most exciting games that I've been a part of. And
I'm wondering, with 35 goals, you guys get 18. You had some spectacular goals. You score 33 seconds into the first quarter and into the third quarter. There's runs. There's they go on a 6-goal run. You have a 4-goal run and a 5-goal run for Buffalo. I mean, a lot of things going on. Were there any moments among all of that that stood out for you that just kind of really are high points or things that just jump out in your memory?
And it's tough to just pick one. There's a lot.
Pick a few.
There's a lot of big plays where I think specifically, I can't remember which one of our D guys it was, but whenever we see those guys jumping in front of the ball and risking their bodies, it really fuels us as an offense to do whatever that we got to do to put the ball in the net as well. So little things like that, little loose balls, turnovers, hustle plays, those are the things that we focus on the most.
Yeah, and I mean, as much as it was a high-scoring game and it felt like neither team could really get a stop, there were some plays, especially late, that were really critical defensive plays or stops that when it comes down to it, whether it's 7-6 or 18-17, a 1-goal game is a 1-goal game, and those are big plays.
Yeah, 100%. Our defense has always been very timely. So no matter what's going on with what's happening in the game, our defense always finds the moments to step up. So we always trust those guys back there.
I'm wondering if you ever recall being part of a game that was so intense, so it was really quite physical. I mean, these are teams that it's a big rivalry. There's a genuine, probably grudging respect, but definitely some physical play, but only 1 goal. Do you ever recall being a game that was this intense 1 penalty in the whole game?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's playoff lacrosse, right? I'm happy that the refs are kind of putting their whistles away and allowing both teams to really just play. It makes the game a lot more fun, entertaining, I think, for the fans as well. And it makes it so both teams are getting a little bit more beat up, which makes it a little more fun as well.
Of all the plays, I mean, I thought DeHoga's goal, where he went into the double team and initiated contact with his shoulder on the defender coming over. It was Mitch Desnew coming over, and it felt to me like that was the only way that was really going to work, because Desnew's coming, he's bringing a load, he's got some momentum. Dehoga just puts his shoulder down and just gets a little lean into him, and that created the space. The Connor Fields with the dive goal, with the hard fake that bought him just enough time to get in. I just think it was pretty amazing. All of those moments, and it becomes a bit of a blur over the course of the evening, with so much happening.
Yeah, there's a ton of goals on both ends. Both teams are extremely talented and just absolutely loaded with offensive firepower. So I think it's going to make for a pretty good series.
You mentioned the difficulty in the community, and I want to touch on that. We can't just skip over it. The moment of silence before the game for the victims and families of the attack the day before the game in Buffalo at the Tops Market. And as a member of that community, I wonder, you said it was very tough for people in Buffalo, for you guys being down there, and you were entering the game with heavy hearts, but determined to do what you could to help the community. And Dehoga mentioned, it's really going to be a medicine game. It felt like it was. I'm curious, it's only a day since that we're recording, and it's not something that's easily or quickly gotten over, but I'm wondering if you could feel some healing start with the energy in the arena.
Yeah, it was an extremely emotional 24 hours. Hearing about the tragedy that happened at Tops, it broke our hearts, especially it happening, in your own backyard. So to be able to see Banditland come together and the community of Buffalo really just stand together and, like I said before, show such a big demonstration of love in a time where it just felt like everything was so dark. It was really a cool thing to be a part of. And I did feel like there was a bit of healing that was happening. And we're still dealing with it right now. But day by day, we're trying to really just bind this community the best that we can.
You are living in Buffalo at this point, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's obviously, like I said, you're part of the community, and as a person of color yourself, which I have to admit, I didn't even know until I saw, I think it was Mackie Jenner wrote a story, and you've stepped up and been quite vocal about you and Dane as well, about the importance of recognizing the issues that are around. And it's such a horrible way for it to be brought home that there's still a lot of work to do, I guess. Yeah,
100%. At the end of the day, most people don't know that I'm Black because of my complexion, obviously. But my mom being from Trinidad and Tobago, even just hearing with the stories that she's gone through and what she's dealt with and what her parents had to deal with growing up is just, it's truly heartbreaking, and inspired me to step up and do whatever that I could to inspire change in the community and around the world, really, as much as I possibly can, and try to do my part.
And I think it's also great to see that when you get out on the floor, obviously that's an important part of who you are and what you're doing, but when you get on the floor, you are representing, but you also obviously get such joy out of the game. And you guys just seem to be having so much fun when you are on the lacrosse floor and really bringing everything you've got in you. And I just wonder, did this year feel particularly from a lacrosse standpoint on this Bandits team, with Dane talking about, this is the best offense he's ever seen. You have 7 guys with over 50 points on the team. Was this one of the funnest seasons that you've had on the lacrosse floor?
Yeah, so far it's been a pretty good season. We're not really looking back into the past right now. We're just focused on this next game in Hamilton coming up, and that's all we're really worried about. We know it's going to be a big battle in Hamilton, so we're looking forward to the challenge.
Yeah, and obviously I shouldn't have made it sound like the season was over yet, because I know there's lots of work to do, and I know that everyone is very much looking forward after that game 1 thriller. What a wild ride. Everyone's looking forward to seeing what you and the Rock can do for an encore, and after that there's another series to be played for one of you. So lots of lacrosse, but really appreciate you coming on, and good luck down the rest of the series and the season.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right, lacrosse friends, I hope you enjoyed those interviews with Josh Byrne and Connor Robinson, two of the really smashing lefties in the National Lacrosse League right now. And we move on to the rundown, the news you need from the world of lacrosse. We start with a massive upset in the NCAA tournament. First round, the second-seeded Georgetown Hoyas fell to the Delaware Blue Hens. It was a massive game, huge upset as mentioned, and JP Ward getting the winning goal with just 8 or 9 seconds to play. The one that everyone is talking about is the gorgeous behind the back from Mike Robinson to pull the Blue Hens within 8-7, really got the final run towards that big victory going for them. We're going to take a look at a couple of angles of that goal, and it was really spectacular. Something that John Grant Jr. might have done. Grant is the idol of Mike Robinson, both Peterborough boys, and Grant, a fellow Delaware alum. So Robinson is taking dead aim at some of the records that Grant set there. And the alumni were celebrating yesterday between Grant, Curtis Dixon, Jordan Hall, Brett Manning, Chris Collins, a pretty illustrious group that are quite invested in the current Blue Hens. Very cool to see. Elsewhere in the NCAA, Inside Lacrosse has announced their All-American teams for Men's Division 1. It was announced at halftime of that Delaware-Georgetown game. No surprise seeing Logan Wisnauskas from Maryland atop the list of attack. He was one of 4 unanimous first-teamers in the media voting. The others were Middy's Sam Handley from Penn, Georgetown's Graham Bundy Jr., plus defender Gavin Adler from Cornell. The voting, the announcement, the results will fuel the Owen McElroy-Brett Dobson debate in net. McElroy was named first team, Dobson second team. It feels like most people in Canada would reverse that, as Dobson is a Canadian guy down with St. Bonaventure, but some pretty cool some pretty cool names coming up on those rosters for the first, second, and third teams. Go and check it out at InsideLacrosse.com for the full list of all 3 teams. A huge record set that isn't getting much attention in women's D1 lacrosse. Last year, all you heard about was Charlotte North. Very well deserved, very appropriate, as Charlotte North was a beast, still is a beast, but her 102 goal record that she set last year only lasted 1 season. Abby Horms has broken that record. She will be on Laxbeat this week. The High Point graduate is going to join us to talk about breaking the record, how she hasn't really got a lot of attention, doesn't feel like she's maybe got the respect she deserves for setting that mark. We're going to go in depth on Laxbeat, so check that out on Inside Lacrosse Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Last week, we talked about the Ontario Junior Lacrosse League. This week, we're going to check in elsewhere in Canada. Out in the BC Junior A League, the Langley Thunder are off to a roaring start with 2 very different wins in their opening weekend. Last Saturday, May 14th, they won 19-16. That's 35 goals, matching what Buffalo and Toronto did in their big NLL playoff matchup. That win was over the Delta Islanders. In 2 of the 3 periods in that game against Delta, those teams scored more goals than the entire game would see the following day. Langley playing host to the Victoria Shamrocks in a 7-3 win for the Thunder, their second in a row. So that is pretty crazy. Langley scored 7 goals, as mentioned, against Victoria. In their game against Delta, they had 5, 8, and 6 in each of the periods. Against Victoria, 3 goals after 2 periods of play. Crazy. So that was a fun one. In the Rocky Mountain League, the St. Albert Miners went 14-0 last summer in the somewhat truncated but interesting Rocky Mountain season with no Minto at the end of it. They believe that they have a team that can challenge for Alberta's first Minto Cup this year, and they picked up right where they left off in their undefeated ways last season as they opened with a pair of games in Saskatchewan, beating the SWAT 17-7 on Saturday and then 9 to 7, much closer on Sunday. So we're going to keep an eye on them and, of course, the whole Rocky Mountain League. And we will wrap up the rundown with mention of the Germany Lacrosse Convention taking place this weekend in Dresden. There are games for men and women in all the disciplines. There are exhibits, clinics, vendors, all the cool stuff you associate with a LaxCon, and it's a pretty cool step in the growth of the game in Europe, especially when you think that the Euros, the men's box Euros, are happening just the second time ever. The first were back in 2017 in Turku, Finland. This summer, they'll be in Hanover, Germany. So Germany is really taking off. They've got quite a team, really hoping to do well in their own country at the Euros, and the LaxCon is a big step for the growth of the game, as mentioned, in that continent. That is it for this week's episode of Lacrosse Link. I'm your host, Steven Stamp. Thanks so much for being with us. Thanks to Josh Byrne and Connor Robinson. And I want to say a special thank you to S.J. Riley. We are using her music for our theme music, and the tune that it comes from is going to be released soon. She gave me the okay to go ahead and let you know that it is coming out. We're going to let you know more about that as we move forward into the summer. It was recorded right here at Treblecock Studio, where we do the show every week. So thanks and a shout out to Treblecock. And that will do it for this week of Lacrosse Link. We'll see you next week.